Good afternoon and welcome to our 2023 Oratorical Contest. My name is Judith Clark. Jim Doherty and I are proud to present our 15 8th grade finalists. This is a full trimester project in which students select their own topic, complete research, and develop a speech. Of our whole 8th grade, these students and their speeches were chosen by their peers as the most successful presentations in individual class contests. Their work shows a dedication to quality and a passion for their topics. And while these finalists were selected, they were not the only high-quality speeches of the year. Each of our students deserves recognition for their work and the courage it takes to present a polished speech to their peers. Introducing today's speeches will be, is she here? Should be Izzy Hurd.
Should be Izzy Hurd.
Thank you for coming to support our students and celebrate their successes.
And I might be doing that in intro.
Yeah.
So we are very grateful to welcome back members of the Hampton Rotary Club who will serve as our judges. So I'm just going to introduce those judges: Jeffrey Merrill, Ann Russell, Paul Rothman, Ann Kaiser, and Chris McClellan. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you guys for coming every year. We've established an awesome tradition here. This is a blast. A special thanks, yep, absolutely. A very special thanks also to our former Hampton Academy colleague, Lori Cotter, who will offer her expertise once again as our judge. Lori's the one who brought the oratorical contest here to Hampton Academy, so Lori, thank you. Thank you to our colleagues, Caleb Shaw and Tim Farrell, for sacrificing their Friday afternoon to act as our official scorers today. So thanks, guys. Much appreciated. Thank you to all of you who came to watch this awesome contest as our audience members. Your presence and support is so important to us and to our speakers. Thank you also, this is going to be a shout out there, Jack, to Jack Hafey up in our booth there for helping with the sound and cameras. The speeches today will be recorded and posted on the Hampton Academy YouTube channel, so you guys can watch that. The speakers will be judged based on subject matter, voice quality, and body language. The speaking order was chosen randomly, and there will be one 10-minute intermission. Once again, welcome to the 2023 Hampton Academy Oratorical Contest, and enjoy the speeches. Do you have the order? Our MC for the afternoon, Izzy Hurd, our 8th grader, is going to be introducing our speeches for us.
The first speaker is Sophie Majoner with the speech, Your Friend, the Fraud.
Hello. A few years ago, when I was about 9 or 10, there was a girl in my grade who I had been friends with since preschool. For the sake of this story, let's call her Mary. Mary was my best friend. I hung out with Mary every day at school. I went over to her house what seemed like every weekend. We begged to have sleepovers or to go out together. But one day, she started to seem off. She would make fun of my way of doing things. She would shoot down my ideas, and we would only do what she liked. And then she did something that I could never forgive. She told everyone, including our moms, that I had called her and her family members stupid and that I hated them, when in reality, the day previous, I had gone home crying because she had said that exact thing to me. I started to feel alone, and with that, my happiness and self-confidence started to falter. That brings us to the big question. What is friendship? What are the benefits of having friends? And how can this social instinct turn on us and our well-being? As you can see, health and friendship are more closely related than you might think. Think of yourself. I'm going to bet that everyone here has at least one person that they can call a friend in their life. But not every friend is a true friend. Before we get into the deep truths about friendship, we have to ask ourselves first, What exactly is friendship in the first place? Well, the exact definition is a little bit hazy. If you Google friendship definition, what comes up is the state of being friends. Thanks, Google. But friendship goes beyond just being friends. A friendship is a reciprocal relationship, according to Aristotle. This implies that in a friendship, both participants feel the same way about each other. Friendships are based on honesty and mutual respect, and without these things, friendships struggle to stay intact. A good analogy for this is another quote from Aristotle. He stated that the best sort of friends spend their days together, not just as cattle grazing in the same pasture. In a nutshell, friendship is feeling good towards someone else and having them feel the same way about you. Having and receiving those good feelings do a lot more for you than you think. When I moved to Hampton at the beginning of last year, I knew a few kids, but only a handful, and not very well. But on my first day of school, I gathered my courage and asked another new girl what her name was. I also was courageous enough to share with the class that I could breathe through my eyes, and I'm sure that more than a few people were weirded out by me. But I went home that night happy because I had a friend to look forward to seeing the next day. This happiness is very beneficial to your body and your mind. Friendships increase happiness, self-esteem, your sense of purpose, social support, and the feeling of belonging, as well as helping you learn and gain a better understanding of yourself. Friendships help you in so many ways, but can they also be harmful? The answer is yes, they can be harmful. If a friendship is not mutual likeness, it can turn toxic. Many people here are probably saying to themselves, that's obvious, or no big deal. But where it may seem obvious in other people's friendships, it could be hard to notice it in your own friends. This is a big deal, and it affects so many people. What could start out as simple, seemingly harmless teasing or bossing around could turn into you getting taken advantage of as a friend. Having fake friends can lower your self-esteem and even start to cause you to have depression. As you can see, it is very important to be able to recognize when you are being mistreated, as it can lead to something much worse. Some signs of a toxic friendship can be if your friends spill your secrets, if they know more about you than you know about them, if they don't tell the whole truth, or if they are just controlling in general. In a survey taken of Americans, 50% of people have reported that they are happier with 2 or 3 close, real friends, rather than a big group of fake, not-so-close friends. I like that I know that I can trust my best friends, and they are sincere, and it's giving me one less thing to worry about in my already stressful life. When we go back to my story about Mary at the beginning, I didn't want to believe that she was a bad friend. But then, after 9 whole years of being friends with her, I finally realized that is not how friendships are supposed to be. I was used to being mistreated because it was all I'd ever known, and because on the outside, Mary had seemed so nice. But it is most likely that what I thought were real, kind, caring, and friendly emotions were most likely just simple niceties. And if she hadn't done that one thing to make me break ties with her, I would probably still be friends with her today, because it took something major to make me see her real self. It takes courage to stand up for yourself. So, evaluate your friends, take action, and you may as well be a happier, healthier person because of it. Health and friendship are so intertwined. There's no limit on friendships, so have as many friends as you want, but make sure they are real for your own benefit. An Irish proverb says, "A good friend is like a 4-leaf clover, hard to find and lucky to have," and I can't agree more. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sydney Caruso with the speech entitled, Hunger in a Land of Plenty.
Hello, everyone. Imagine being so hungry you can't even lift up a finger. People around the world face this problem every single day. The world produces enough food to feed everyone, but hunger is still a problem. Food insecurity is the lack of access to food. Some may say, if the world produces enough food to feed everyone, then it shouldn't be a problem. But it is. Some people don't have access to food because of the country they live in or the income they make. Food insecurity is dangerous, it causes health problems, and it affects not only third world countries, but New Hampshire too. Food insecurity can be very dangerous. Food insecurity can cause a mental health crisis, crime, and it also makes it difficult for children to learn and to grow. Many people in the US face food insecurity, and it is still an ongoing struggle today. Food insecurity is increasing, making more people stressed and depressed. According to an article from Medium.com, 795 million people in the world are hungry and don't have access to food. That is double the US's population. By 2050, another 2 billion people are expected to join them. Hunger is on the rise, hurting more people each day. Crime occurs more often when food insecurity is in the area. An executive representative from the National Supermarket Association stated that people have no fear of coming to your store and stealing. At least they will have a constant 3 meals a day in prison, right? Yeah. Well, with this mindset, there will be more crime than ever before. The National Supermarket Association also stated that New York City grocery stores consider locking up due to rampant theft, and workers say they are traumatized. Hunger makes it very difficult for children to learn and to grow. Having no food in their systems can make children grumpy and depressed. This causes grades to go down and lash outs. Food insecurity is dangerous in many ways for people who experience it severely. Not only can this hunger cause crime and danger, but it also causes health problems. Food insecurity is associated with a large range of health issues. Some include risk of chronic illnesses and childhood obesity. People who have little to no income may experience severe health problems. One may say people who experience food insecurity won't have bad health problems because they could just beg for food. But do you really think that if you're on the streets with no money, you're going to just get healthy meals from begging? No. Unfortunately, this is not how the world works. You may be fed one day, but the next day is a new problem. With severe hunger, people have high risks of chronic illnesses, such as heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and kidney failure, each of which causes death. A study from the University of Michigan stated that 13,664 people over the age of 50 just in New Hampshire are hospitalized due to hunger. That's a large portion of our society. When people are poor, they are forced to opt for cheaper foods that are processed in heavy fattening chemicals. For example, store-bought mac and cheese has little nutritional value with high contents of sodium and fat. This could all lead to obesity, mostly seen in children because their parents need to feed them anything they can afford. Not only does food insecurity cause health problems and mental problems for people around the world, but locally too. Food insecurity is within our state, town, and even in our school. Hunger is a worldwide problem that is hard to overcome, but if we start helping out locally, we can make a huge difference. One may say, we shouldn't be responsible for feeding other people we don't know. Even though we don't know them, they still live in our community. Picture yourself in their shoes, waiting to see food. Can you imagine that burning sensation? You may not see food insecurity, but it's everywhere, and there are things we can do to help. For example, donating to local food banks. Gather is an amazing food organization that helps those in need. Every Thanksgiving, Hampton Academy collects food and donates it to Gather. Last year, we donated around 960 pounds to this food organization. By doing that, our school made a difference in our community. And not only that, but Hampton Academy made it possible for many families to have food on their plates for Thanksgiving. Another way to help with this problem is to volunteer. Most people normally don't have the time to volunteer for things, but just think about the difference you can make as an individual. If we all work together, we can help improve hunger in our community. An article from Feeding America states that in New Hampshire, 1 in every 14 people are facing hunger. 94,450 people are facing hunger, and of them, 24,360 are children. This is a lot of people, half of which we would have never known. All of these reasons show that food insecurity is a big problem in today's society. The world produces enough food to feed everyone, but hunger is still a problem. Taking everything into account, food insecurity is dangerous, it causes health problems, and it is a major issue that affects people here in New Hampshire and worldwide. We need to pay attention to the people that are suffering. This goal may not be easy to achieve, but things that are worth doing are often not easy. If we all help, we will be stronger as a community. Because imagine you're the one so hungry, you can't even lift up a finger. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sophie Garcia with a speech entitled, "Why Do We Fear Judgment?"
Thank you all for coming and welcome. You've just gone seated by your waitress at a restaurant. She asks, "What drinks can I get for you?" You respond by asking for a glass of water. Your waitress looks at you up and down, but why? What just happened is judgment. Your waitress didn't like what you said, so she gave you a weird look. Having to deal with feeling insecure is hard. We feel alone and ashamed. But people who judge feel insecure too. We all get insecure because we want to defend ourselves. Doing this isn't always necessary. Some comments don't have to become a big deal, or sometimes judgment is positive, such as a judge at a contest. When people become offended, some believe it's as simple as someone being upset by receiving a negative comment. It's more complex than that. You observe the waitress's judgment by the expression on her face. You care because you want to appear attractive to her and others. But why did the waitress comment? Because of her stereotypical behavior. When this behavior builds up, judgment starts. When a person is judging, their voice gives off a judgmental impression. The receiver analyzes their voice and is given the understanding that they're being judged. We do this by seeing what traits and emotions are heard or seen in a speaker's body, such as a side eye. You can observe that this is a sign of judgment. Some may argue that we only get insecure when someone gives a look or says a comment. From authors Cyril Chapuis and Didier Grandjean, people analyze by looking for traits in personality and attitude. These traits create our behavior. As we know, everyone's personality is different, So our reaction reflects off of that. Some people hear a loud voice and react dramatically, while others don't. But you can control how you react. We focus on people's words more than we focus on themselves as an individual. This distracts us into believing that judgment has a power over us. Why do we judge others? We become judgmental because it's an instinct we have. When we become judgmental, the first thing our body decides to do is protect itself, which results in being negative. For example, a fight or flight situation. When somebody is judging, they use stereotypical behaviors. This behavior is reflected off of personality. Christina M. Horback and Thomas O. Parsons explains, dog standards look for sociability, excitability, and no social anxiety. More optimistic judgment, meaning dogs have standards that look for more positive traits, which is very similar to how the world has standards for beauty, talent, and education. People are so afraid that they won't fit into these standards and won't get accepted by society. Why are we so afraid of this? What does the fear of it mean, and why do we get it? Picture this. You're wearing an outfit you thought looked nice. Someone keeps staring, and you start to get nervous. But why? Feeling unsure, nervous, or insecure are feelings we get when we feel anxiety. Judgment is the creator of this fearful experience. How do we avoid it? Talking back to them would come from you being anxious. You do this to support yourself. In this situation, you'd probably give a face back to make it seem like you don't care for it. But you do. This is how we try to make ourselves seem unjudgeable. It is also how we balance ourselves to make us feel stable, even when we're not. Depending on what type of person you are, you will either decide to respond them or ignore. By responding, we try to appear more attractive and confident, when the truth is, you just don't want to seem insecure, so you hide it. By ignoring, it means to not respond, talk to someone about it, go over it, and maintain a positive attitude, which is the best way to cope with judgment. Sometimes, people can't control how they react. The Anxiety and Depression Association of America says, if you struggle to control how you react in a threatening situation, talk to someone. Now, the next time you face someone judging you, what will you do? Judgment is something we've all feared, but we don't have to. Why do we fear it so much? A person who is judgmental will dislike a statement because it offends them personally. We fear them because we want to appear attractive to others, not for ourselves. We get so caught up in wanting to be adored by others that we forget about who we are as an individual. So, the next time a woman walking on the sidewalk gives you a look, what will you do? Become negative just like that woman, or don't respond at all? Because judgment is the thought we shouldn't fear. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ethan Roy with the speech entitled Self-Drive.
Good afternoon. Running cross country has been something I've always loved and wanted to succeed at. I made some goals for myself before the season to win a race again under a certain time. I was really motivated to be as ready as possible for the first race, and I trained really hard. When it came, I didn't expect to achieve either goal, but I completed both in just the first race. My success came from intrinsic motivation. It is the self-power to succeed just because a person wants to. No reward or anything other than self-drive is causing someone to be motivated. Extrinsic motivation is an outside power causing a person to be motivated. It can be a reward, a deadline for a school project, or anything else that would motivate someone to do something or work harder. This cross-country season, I had intrinsic motivation, and it worked out great for me. Intrinsic is more important than extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is less effective, and people are more invested when they have intrinsic motivation. There is a positive side to extrinsic, however. It helps you learn to be motivated to work towards a goal or a reward, like getting a project for work or school done on time. It makes you feel accomplished and good about yourself, but it isn't the same as true motivation. Extrinsic is less effective than intrinsic motivation. First off, a reward doesn't help get things done any better sometimes. For example, a higher salary at work doesn't necessarily determine how productive someone is. It can be determined by how much someone's interested in their work. Someone with a high-paying job, like a doctor, that doesn't exactly enjoy what they do, can be less productive than someone like a cashier who loves their job and puts in a lot of effort. Extrinsic motivation can even have some negative effects too, because it distracts from the true meaning of things. Something that many elementary schools do is the Great Kindness Challenge to see how many kind things kids can do to spread kindness. It seems like a great idea, but it can backfire. Sure, all the kids do kind things, but it isn't sincere, even though the intention is to get kids to be kind because it's the right thing to do, not because an extrinsically motivating thing motivates them to be kind. Another downside of extrinsic motivation is that it can actually turn play into work. An NPR broadcast, Mr. Bossman, What's My Motivation? Money? Brings up a famous study where a group of kids who love to draw were told, if you draw, I'll give you a shiny certificate. The kids would draw, and in 2 weeks, they were no longer interested in drawing. A reward can take away from the fun in things and make things seem like work, distracting from the true reason of motivation. People are more invested when they have intrinsic motivation. The true root of motivation is the idea of autonomy, the desire to be self-directed. We as humans have a sense of autonomy. For example, when people grow up, they want to go down the path of a career as something they'd like to do for work. Different people are interested in different things, and someone's going to be more invested in a job they're interested in or something they'd find boring. Another thing is, intrinsically motivating work produces better results. BrainsWorkInc.com displays a very good example of this, called the FedEx Innovation to Stay idea, first used by an Australian software company. They gave their employees 24 hours to step away from their normal work and focus on innovating instead. The employees would come up with a new product, service, or something that would improve the success of their company overnight. Then everyone would present their idea to the rest of the team. This FedEx Day is intrinsically motivating for their workers because they get to come up with an issue in the company that they want to fix without anyone telling them what to do. This idea has produced many new amazing things because the workers are intrinsically motivated. We need intrinsic motivation. Without it, we'd have no purpose in life, not having things that give us satisfaction to work just for ourselves. Extrinsic, on the other hand, isn't as needed. It can be less effective, hindering people's motivation instead of strengthening it. With intrinsic, we are more invested and create greater things. The importance of having intrinsic motivation applies to everything, not just running. The drive and purpose in life comes from self-motivation, so just remember, it's better to motivate yourself than have others motivate you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is William Koudalaitis with the speech entitled, The Need to Fail.
Hello, everyone. When my dad first showed me golf, I thought it'd be a breeze since I play baseball. I thought it'd be easier since the ball isn't moving. You can probably tell where this is going, but anyway, my dad gave me some old clubs and I stepped up to the plate. I felt the light breeze cool me down on the hot summer day. Birds were chirping in the distance and sounds of golfers hitting golf balls were heard. And so I swung and I hit the ball and I was looking for it, and there it was. So I thought maybe I need to keep my club lower. So on the next swing, I hit the ball, except it was the big ball, the earth. So at that point, I had about 3 options. 1, I could have given up. 2, I could get super mad and throw my golf clubs to heaven. Or 3, I could learn from my mistake and I could try to get better. Your brain tells you not to do choice number 2. So in that point, you have about 2 options. The better option is to learn from your mistake and get better. But what if there was a harder question? You missed the game-winning shot for a basketball game and you think you let your team down. You can either move on and get the next one, or don't stop thinking about it for the next 24 hours. At first, you may think to move on and get the next one. But the best option is think about your mistake for a little while and know what you did wrong so you know what to do right the next time. Merriam-Webster defines failure as an omission of occurrence or performance. Most of here I've done that, which everyone does, but maybe you didn't respond the correct way, but I can tell you exactly how to. What exactly can failure do? Failure can be both good and bad. Treated the right way and you'll be successful, and the wrong way and you'll be in trouble. Failure can lower self-esteem, and people with low self-esteem tend to focus on criticism and shut out the good and focus on being a failure. Failure also shows us what we care about in life, because if we waste energy and have feelings like anger or sadness about failing a subject, then it shows that we care about the subject and get mad or sad about it. I studied a bit for the spelling bee, and when I got out, I was pretty sad, which shows that I cared about the spelling bee and winning it. Now, sometimes showing a bunch of emotion won't get you anywhere. See, in baseball, if you strike out, throwing a fit and being angry doesn't help you get past failure. Instead, it creates bad habit, which is even worse. So throwing a fit is never a good option. Failure can also show us what we need to work on, what we're already good at. For example, if I scored 26 points in the paint in a basketball game, but then I huck up 10 air balls from the three-point line, obviously I need to work on my three-point shooting, but at least I can still be proud of my 26 points in the paint. All in all, failure can show us a lot of things that can help us out. Failure is abstract and can sometimes be hard to understand. We usually mistake failure as being bad and how it could be the worst thing to happen to us, but in reality, the more you fail, then there's more space for success. A good example of this is grading, because the worse of a grade you get, then the space for getting a better grade is huge. Your brain learns to do things better the more you fail, so the chances of failing again is really small. And if you care about it enough too, you'll probably go out of your way to get a better grade. Hall of Famer Babe Ruth once said that every strike brings me closer to my next home run. This is a good representation of how failure only makes people better. The previous points show how failing powers success. The most important part of failing is capitalizing on it, because that's what makes failing okay. First, you have to pinpoint the source of a slip-up. This means that you have to know what made you fail and then work from there. Mourning about failing is very common and is sometimes acceptable, but once 24 hours have passed, you should just move on. But like I said before, you still want to remember what made you fail. It happens to me all the time when playing baseball, because when I do something wrong and show a little anger, my coach usually says, "Oh, go get the next one," or "Don't let it get to your head." And usually I would go down the road of swinging air again because I would let it get to my head, or I was just thinking about it too much. My point is, you have to find a happy medium where you know what you did wrong, but not to think about it too much, because that's when peer pressure comes in and you fail even worse. Referring back to my story from earlier, I practice more and more, and I use my will to get better. Sometimes seeing the mistakes are hard to catch, like for me playing golf. So that's why there's coaches. Thankfully, I had my dad, so think about it. I went from swinging air with my golf club to hitting 150 yards with a club, which isn't that bad, to be honest. And if I can do that, then anyone can do that. So the next time you fail, don't be a Monday morning quarterback. Remember the part that made you fail and keep your head up, because remember this: if you try to collect the tears of all the successful people in this world, it would fill an ocean. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Megan Nadeau with a speech entitled Overpowered Positivity.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Look on the bright side. There's always an eye to the storm. Just be happy. Why do you let those words get in your head? By letting statements like that dictate your emotions is extremely toxic. Too much positivity can actually hurt the way you think and have long-term consequences. This is known as toxic positivity, something that used to be innocent but now is used as a silent weapon. Toxic positivity is defined as the belief that no matter how dire or difficult the situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset. One might think that an abundance of optimism can make you a better person, but too much is dangerous for your mental health. Is there a way to maintain a balance of optimism while still accepting reality? And how can we identify toxic positivity in the first place? Toxic positivity can also be something that involves dismissing negative emotions and responding to distress with false reassurances rather than empathy. People fail to understand how it impacts your emotional well-being. You may not be familiar with the term sunshine bully, but everybody knows one. Imagine failing a test that you'd studied so hard for. And as you complain to your friend, they respond with, "Don't be so upset." As harmless as this approach may seem, the overall effect is one that negates your ability to fully experience your own genuine emotions. Optimism is healthy in moderation, but when it's overused, it can be toxic. For instance, being told several times to look on the bright side is harmful because not only is this statement a distraction from your actual emotions, it's going to make you feel that you aren't measuring up to societal standards. According to Science of People, toxic positivity can make you inauthentic, distance you from others, and lose touch with reality. When a person is bombarded by messages with the cliches of silver linings and everything is okay, that individual isn't able to experience the full spectrum of human emotions. Positivity is a destructive weapon to interpersonal relationships. As was stated previously concerning the term sunshine bully, anyone can use positivity to their own negative advantage. The danger in that is that you might believe that what you're saying to yourself is true. This is known as self-gaslighting, something that we never know is happening until it's too late. Toxic positivity is self-gaslighting, and manifesting is a common form of it. As said by psychologist Victoria Stokes, manifesting is a theory that suggests how your life pans out is ultimately within your control, that you have the power to manifest your desires using the power of positivity. The act of manifesting makes you believe that something is going to happen without investing work and dedication. The opposing side may sincerely believe that manifesting helps you achieve your goals, but that simply isn't the case. Many people gaslight themselves into thinking that by wishing for something, it eventually will become their reality. Sadly, many fall down the rabbit hole of thinking is the same as acting. Manifesting is an example of too much positivity, due to the fact that it is dreaming without doing. If you lie to yourself countless times, you eventually will believe your words. Self-gaslighting is like a persuasive essay that you present in your mind. If you rely on manifesting to help you achieve your goals without doing anything to make them happen, you're gaslighting yourself into an alternative reality. So, is there still a way to be positive at a healthy level? Yes, in fact, there is. While too much optimism can be toxic, there are ways to achieve a healthy balance. For instance, when we experience stress, many of us seek our comfort foods. The purpose of that is to distract our minds from what's actually going on. Excessive optimism can suppress our actual emotions and create temporary happiness. One way to balance that out can be by adding some more negativity into your life. As odd as that sounds, it actually has health benefits. The World Economic Forum summarizes the health satisfaction of positive negativity. The negativity associated with a health issue or work or a relationship makes it clear to us that there is a problem. In other words, if you are in an unhealthy situation, your emotional negativity kicks in and tells you to retreat from that situation. In that instance, having negativity is perfectly appropriate and serves as a protective factor. Now, it may sound as if you should just cut out positivity in your life, but that is far from the truth. Being happy and joyful can be a good thing. Positivity is beneficial when we have to decide how we will approach a new or unfamiliar situation. Imagine that you're moving to a new school, and as much as you are fixated on the anxiety and the what-ifs, you instead decide to enter the experience optimistically. Instead of going in thinking that you'll be labeled as the new kid, you focus on the opportunity to get a fresh start. Positivity can open your mind when going into new situations. It can bring you reassurance before a test by reframing the experience that you worked hard and will do your best. That's an example to use positivity to your own advantage. Anything in a large dose has the potential for toxic effects, including positivity. A way to dilute toxic positivity can be by increasing the attention that you give to reality. Just be happy is a phrase we are told all the time, but something that should take its place is good job or I'm proud of you. Neither of those phrases distract the receiver from their emotions, but rather serve to validate them. Just like riding a bike, you need to have the right amount of balance to stay upright. You need that balance of optimism and reality in your life. So next time that you get told, just be positive, back up, and reassess. Will this small statement distract me from my other emotions? If the answer is yes, then maybe, instead of looking on the so-called bright side, look on the side of reality. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Hannah Edgar with a speech entitled The Attention Crisis of Today.
Good afternoon. 40 seconds. 40 seconds is the average attention span of an American adult, and it's even less for developing youth and teens. Britannica defines attention as a state of mind that represents the shifting focus of one's consciousness. There is no doubt that the attention spans of adults and children are getting shorter because of many factors. The question is, how long can you go without checking your email, a text, a notification? By learning new ways to refocus, we can begin to reverse the effect of these factors on the human brain. Some may argue that their attention span does not need to be lengthened, when the truth is quite the opposite. Everyone can increase their attention span, no matter where their starting point is. So, it's been 40 seconds. Are you still paying attention, or have you zoned out? Technology is the main factor that is shrinking attention spans worldwide. It is important to counteract the effects of this attention deficiency. Educating ourselves on awareness strategies can also improve periods of focus. Technology is a key component in shortening the attention spans of people of all ages. The use of personal technology is dramatically decreasing attention spans in people worldwide. Less than 20 years ago, our attention span was triple what it is now. What is the biggest factor that has changed this? The introduction of social media. It has been so fast that adults and teens are still learning how to balance work or school and free time. Social media and cell phone use has acclimated people to getting information in short bursts. Students who have complete access to their smartphones have very little academic stamina. A study published by the Journal of Communication Education showed that students who did not have access to their phones wrote 62% more information in their notes and had a more detailed recollection of the lecture. They also scored up to 12 points higher on standardized tests. Scrolling has become a habit, and breaking that habit can be very difficult. Swiping on TikTok, Instagram, and other social media platforms can quickly become addicting. A 3-minute break can rapidly spiral into hours on your phone. This happens because the company behind these platforms know how to keep you zoned out, because if you keep scrolling, they keep getting paid. This issue is not to be taken lightly, and it is crucial that we counteract this problem. Increasing one's focus can help with higher education or career paths. There are many situations in life when you need to be able to focus on a project for school or a task in your career. Some may claim that there are more critical issues to invest time and energy into. On the contrary, this issue needs to be addressed and dealt with to enhance our ability to learn new things and remain focused on the task at hand. Another reason why it is important to take action is to debunk the myth of multitasking. When a person is multitasking, they are only doing one of two things. They could be juggling their tasks by shifting their focus quickly between multiple tasks, creating a switch cost or time and energy lost while multitasking. On the other hand, they could be doing one task automatically while placing their focus in another. Both of these techniques have been proven to be ineffective. Dr. Gloria Mark, professor at the University of California, stated that the more people multitask, the more errors they make. When these errors occur, they can increase already high levels of stress in adults and teens. Overall, it is crucial that our society reverses the lack of focus by working to increase our attention spans, which can be done in many ways. The first strategy to stay focused is simple yet incredibly effective. Finding something you are passionate about can really help you maintain a steady stream of attention. Psychologists such as Gian Nakamura have coined the term flow state, or a state of focus so strong that you lose all sense of time and body, fully experiencing everything around you. Some examples are an artist absorbed in creativity, or a rock climber scaling a difficult mountain. One may claim that these attention deficits are inevitable, that there is no way to fix it. Yet something as simple as finding your passion can greatly improve your attention span. Taking short breaks has also been proven to increase productivity once you return to the task. Doing activities that take no mental effort, besides scrolling on TikTok, during breaks can help refocus your attention. For example, relaxing for just 10 minutes and doing a mindless task, such as laundry or loading the dishwasher, can produce significantly higher levels of divergent or abstract thinking. Dr. Gloria Mark states, if you have read something more than once, or if the words are just not registering, it is time to stop and replenish. This strategy is a good indicator of when one should just stop and reset their focus. These are not all of the possible techniques for resetting your mind, but just some to start with to regain our focus. Undoubtedly, the attention spans of our society are shrinking. Reversing the effect of technology on our brains is essential to our country and our world. Improving one's attention span is not easy, but there are many strategies that can enhance our ability to stay focused. 40 seconds. This number is outrageous. Our society needs to work hard to contradict this disturbing statistic. At the end of the day, we cannot achieve this drastic change overnight. Even so, with your effort, we can make this world a more focused, aware place. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stella Finnegan with a speech entitled Stereotypes in Our Society.
Hello. 1/10 of a second. The amount of time it takes to blink. A fragment of time so small, it goes by unnoticed and unfelt. Yet 1/10 of a second is the amount of time it takes to judge someone, to establish a lasting first impression, to make assumptions, generalizations, to determine the quality of your future relationship. When someone judges the character of a person, they often put them in tight boxes of a stereotype, which can feel restrictive and trigger a person's inclination to resist that categorization, to defy that suffocating stereotype. However, perpetuating the pressure to defy these stereotypes can actually combat the goal of equality and acceptance. Simply defying stereotypes is not the path to an inclusive society. In order to truly have equality, people should be able to embrace their true personalities and not feel judged for it. Although some stereotypes and generalizations are hurtful, the pressure to defy them can be just as hurtful. It is futile to attempt to resist these stereotypes because, based on psychology and history, stereotypes will always exist. Additionally, being an authentic individual includes many layers and likely incorporates traits of a stereotype. Lastly, when people are shamed for being a certain way, it works against the ultimate goal of equality. Stereotypes have become a piece of our society ingrained in everyone, and the reasons behind them are strongly rooted in science and history. Because of the science behind them, stereotypes will always exist. Resisting something that will ever last and compromising parts of your personality to do so is completely counterproductive. Humans develop stereotypes instinctively. According to UConn psychology professor John DeVito, we categorize people automatically, immediately, unconsciously, based on a person's race and based on a person's sex. This dates back to the beginning of human existence, when finding others who were the same as us was crucial to survival. As the world has evolved and modernized, however, this is no longer true. But even with this realization that we don't need to develop stereotypes to survive, our brains still make them without our awareness. For example, kids in middle school and high school establish cliques with others based on shared interests. When in these stages of life, being part of a clique can feel like a matter of survival. This is why stereotypes are so difficult to eradicate. We cannot simply rearrange our instincts just because we know these stereotypes can be hurtful to others. Discriminating against people based on whether or not they fit stereotypes is unfair, especially considering that most of us fit some sort of stereotype. Individuality includes many layers and likely incorporates traits of a stereotype. No matter the varying aspects of each personality, most of us embody some of the traits of a stereotype, so the idea that we could defy them is unrealistic. Statistically, there are 65% of stereotypes that are valid, according to psychology professor Noam Spencer. Although they are something we cannot help formulating, society still views stereotypes as a representation of inequality. This leads to a desire to defy these stereotypes, and in doing so, we contradict our own individuality. Although they may be somewhat incorrect, generalizations can be true without being the whole truth. The teen girl can be in honors classes and still love to shop for makeup. The successful businesswoman can run a company and still cook and clean for her family. We risk ignoring the truth of our personality just to avoid proving these generalizations right. This is especially difficult when the stereotypes are rooted in validity. Even if this is true, however, generalizations are incapable of capturing someone's entire personality. In the words of Spencer, most of us resent when our deeply felt complexity is denied, when we are judged by those who don't know us well, when we are robbed of our uniqueness, our genetic, biographical, psychological one-of-a-kindness. Because of this, it seems that in order to reject stereotypes, we must prove them wrong. However, defying stereotypes will not get rid of them, and instead works against the ultimate goal of equality. It is impossible to truly have equality if people are still shamed for being a certain way. This action simply reverses the roles, but still discriminates against a group of people. For example, shaming stay-at-home moms for fitting a traditional role for women is just as hurtful as discriminating against women in the workplace. As time goes on, society continues to make strides to increase equality. Due to this, we develop new notions about how to eradicate stereotypes that are potentially sexist or racist generalizations. This leads to the idea that to get rid of stereotypes, we must defy them, which then discriminates against those who fit stereotypes. However, not all stereotypes are negative. Some stereotypes let us assume the best about people without knowing if it's true. Additionally, making them benefits the perceivers. Psychology professor Rodolfo Denton Mendoza says that stereotyping frees up mental resources that can be devoted to other tasks, and yet we ourselves don't suffer the negative consequences of having been put in that little box. Judging by this and other factors, defying stereotypes will not resolve the ongoing battle for equality. Defying stereotypes won't make our society more inclusive. Stereotypes are psychologically and historically rooted in our society and impossible to get rid of. It's also unfair to shame people for either fitting or defying them. The logic of this is primarily because most of us fit some of the traits of a stereotype. Nevertheless, wanting to defy stereotypes is a natural reaction because our brains recognize that we have spent hundreds of years making strides toward equality just to be placed in the same restrictive categories in a fraction of a second. However, this pressure to defy stereotypes is not something that has to exist forever. So, instead of changing ourselves to become something society believes we should be, let's instead change the view of the world to become a more equal place. Thank you.
We will now take a 10-minute intermission.
Hello, we're going to get started in a moment. Jack, if you can get the lights. Thank you.
Please welcome Ryan Rosberg with a speech entitled Envy, the Not So Deadly Sin.
Good afternoon and welcome back. There is a fable about a lapdog and a mule. The lapdog was favored and could be described as the prize pet because all the mule was useful for was to plow the fields. Naturally, the mule was envious. Envy is the desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attribute belonging to someone else. Envy could be split up into many different categories, such as what you feel when you're envious, the harsh side effects of long-term envy, and lastly, the benefits that you can get from envy. When you aren't careful on how you control your emotions, it can lead to serious negative effects down the road. The bottom line is, too much envy can destroy you. But if you listen to my speech, I can educate you on how to use envy to your advantage. There are many emotions that go through your head when you are envious. Science shows that the majority of people immediately size up others in categories such as beauty, strength, and knowledge. Common things to be envious of could be great looks, they're one of the popular kids, or maybe it's as simple as they've been wearing a pair of shoes that you've always wanted. Envy is almost always based on people having a desire that someone else has. For instance, imagine you're going over one of your friends' houses. Once you open the door and go up to their living room, you see a huge TV and a ton of video games to play. You find that you're excited, but at the same time, you wish you had that as well. That is the feeling of envy. Neil Burton, an author of Psychology Today, once said, "Our age of equality encourages us to compare ourselves to one another and to the internet." I have experienced that firsthand. On the social media app TikTok, people show off their amazing talents. There have been so many times where I wish that I could play the violin or perform as well in sports. That is when I've been envious. Many of us who pay close attention to celebrities could say that you have also been envious at one point or another. So many of us teens pay so much attention to them to the point where we do everything we can to be like them. One recent study performed by Harvard Business Review found that over 75% of people have been envious over someone else in the past year. There are also a lot of repercussions to envy. Friendships can be destroyed just because of one emotion. Before I moved to Hampton Academy last year, I went to a school in Massachusetts that I felt was based on envy. There was envy and hate everywhere because the school is divided into the cool and popular kids and the misfits of the school. Those misfits were driven to climb the social ladder. They would have tunnel vision and focus on nothing else just so they could feel like they fit in. That is only what happens in public. It does a lot to the person experiencing envy in their own life. It isn't classified as one of the 7 deadliest sins for no reason. It can lead to depression, anxiety, narcissism, and even insomnia. Another thing that envy can do is lead you to try to sabotage other people. This could be labeled as the worst effect of them all. Sabotage can be in many different forms. It could be bullying. It could be putting others down because you think it makes you look cooler. But when it gets really physical, someone could end up seriously hurt because of how driven they are. A lot of fights had broken out at the school that I used to go to because people were hurt both emotionally and physically, leading to a toxic environment. A lot of the time, envy is noticeable in a person. Typically, they will act differently and their whole personality will change. But there are some benefits if you use envy in the right way. I found that gratitude is the best counter to envy, because when you break each emotion down, envy is being so obsessed with something that someone else has that you don't. But gratitude is embracing and being happy with what you already have. There are also a lot of benefits that you can get in school that translate from envy. For example, whenever I see people doing better than me in math assignments or writing assignments, I try harder and end up doing better. This emotion can help us feel motivated. This emotion can help us improve. This emotion can help us feel dedicated to accomplish anything we want in life. In order to start your journey towards a certain goal, all you have to do is break down the steps into small, achievable parts. So next time you're envious over a classmate's appearance, such as a pair of shoes, save up that money instead of spending it on something else. That way, you can save up for something that you really want. Let's go back to the story about the mule and the lapdog. Because the mule's envy didn't subside, it started to act like the dog. It would barge inside the house and jump up on top of the owner just so it could be liked more. The owner even had to have his servants drag the mule back to the barn where it sat and thought about himself, someone who was foolish enough to be consumed by envy. This goes to show that emotions are not something that can be simply tossed aside. Envy is as important as it is harmful. I recommend that you try to think positively, and if you are envious of something, be that something. But please, don't be envious of me just because I came up with that myself. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Estelle Westrogen with the speech title, The Jealousy Buried Within You.
Good afternoon. Jealousy makes us act in ways that are very inventive, said by Parul Sehgal, a former American literary critic from the New York Times. This was proven from her own story, from dealing with the word jealousy. When Parul was 8 years old, a new girl had just joined her class. She had these amazing quantities about her, like her shiny hair, her cute pencil case, her spelling, but most importantly, her good grades. Parul felt overrun with jealousy, so she came up with her mischievous plan, as one does. She stayed late after school one day and sneaked into her classroom. Her plan was to change the new girl's grades, which she did, but before she returned the grading book, she saw that all of her other classmates had good grades too. So as you're probably thinking, this turn of events led to Parul changing all of her classmates' grades, while giving herself all A's. She figured, might as well. She never understood where this idea came from. But the question that was really clouding her mind was, why did it bother her so much? Why did this new girl that was a good speller bother her so much? I'm sure we've all been jealous or felt some form of jealousy before. I mean, now think of this scenario. Think of someone receiving an award that you were this close to getting. Do you really think that you could say, congratulations, and mean it? According to Merriam-Webster, it means hostile toward a rival or one believed to enjoy an advantage. A related term is envy. Envy is a common misconception of jealousy. It means a painful or resented awareness of an advantage enjoyed by another, joined with a desire to possess that same advantage. You're probably wondering why I jumped to the topic envy. This is because envy and jealousy get easily confused. It can be really tricky to get the right definition, and it depends on who you ask. But let's make one thing clear. Jealousy is not envy, even though you can experience both envy and jealousy in similar ways. For example, you may feel jealous or envious when the new baby joins the family. You would feel envious because you want that attention that that baby's now getting. And you would feel jealous because you are threatened by the power that that baby now holds. Or imagine your friends leaving you behind. How would that make you feel? Jealous or envious? Are you jealous because you are threatened with feeling replaced? Or are you envious because you don't have those friendships anymore and they do? Now that we are aware that jealousy is indeed not envy, how do we clarify it? Jealousy is often referred to the green-eyed monster. This phrase comes from William Shakespeare's play Othello. Othello believes that his wife is having an affair. He becomes so consumed by these thoughts that he can't separate what is reality from what's not. His lieutenant, Iago, is dealing with jealousy that makes him plot Othello's downfall and plant the seeds of jealousy in Othello. His jealousy is derived from hating Othello because he passed him over for a promotion, and plus, he is jealous of Othello's success. Iago says, "O beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat feeds on." This quote means that jealousy plays with its meat or man, like a cat would with a mouse. Jealousy almost always develops from an early age, but it also declines with age, according to UC San Diego today. More women also experience jealousy, with percentages of 79.4 to 74.1. Jealousy is fueled by insecurity, meaning that it can really happen anywhere. It can happen at school, at home, or even at your friend's birthday party. Oddly enough, it can even occur with primates and bluebirds. At school, you could be jealous of someone's attributes, like Pearl Sagal was, which would be from having low self-esteem that would make you possessive of others. Jealousy can build up over time that can put you in positions where you won't be able to recognize yourself. In relationships, jealousy can manifest by acting obsessive, criticizing, fault-finding, feeling distrust, being overprotective or suspicious, and verbally abusing. Jealousy can also develop in friendships that is mostly seen in adults. Jamie Krems, an assistant professor in psychology and friendship researcher, said, "Friends can also lose their slot in the best friend hierarchy. This constant worry to be replaced is completely derived from jealousy." Jealousy has a lot of effects, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot. It can make you act in dangerous ways. For example, spousal murder. Jealousy is the #1 cause for spousal murder in the US, and if we don't learn how to cope with jealousy, this cycle will just keep continue. Some other big effects are abuse and physical violence. This can especially take place in relationships. Jealousy can cause stomach aches, headaches, weight gain or loss, insomnia, and weakened immunity. Jealousy can give you risk for heart disease and is also linked to some forms of cancer. Some mental health conditions that you can get are BPD, borderline personality disorder, depression, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, paranoia, and even schizophrenia. Now let's go back to the green-eyed monster and Pearl Sagal. Because Othello had these newly developed thoughts of jealousy, in the end, he killed his wife and then himself. And Pearl Sagal didn't really answer her question, so I'll try and answer it for her. When you are jealous, you make up a story about someone else's life. And because of this, you paint yourself out to be the victim. This mental illusion makes the thing that you're jealous of seem like it's doing this to you and only you. This is why it bothered her so much. In the end, both the green-eyed monster and Pearl Sagal proved that jealousy is a deeply rooted problem that starts from an early age.
To help with this deeply rooted problem, talking to a therapist, working on your confidence, trying to eliminate your insecurities, setting personal goals, and confronting your fears will tremendously impact you and the people around you. After all that's been said, in the words of William Penn, an English writer and philosopher, the jealous are troublesome to others, but a torment to themselves. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Eliza DePutra Sumalong with speech entitled Beauty Standards, Unrealistic, Unattainable, and Unsettling.
I'm fat, I'm ugly, and I'm overweight. These were the thoughts running through Ashley's mind as she stared at herself in the mirror. She saw thousands of images of girls with the skinniest figures and flattest stomachs that she couldn't help but hate the way she looked. So, she started skipping meals and starving herself because she believed that there was something wrong with her size and weight. The consequences of this were that she almost died of heart failure from a restrictive diet. As much as Ashley believed she was overweight, she was just 14 and weighed 85 pounds. But why did this happen? There's only one answer: unrealistic beauty standards. Ever since the 1960s, girls have been expected to have an hourglass figure, small waist, flawless skin, and most importantly, skinny to be considered attractive. Meanwhile, guys are expected to be lean, fit, and have a muscular physique. These standards have influenced society in a variety of ways, and I'm confident to say that it's done more harm than good. It's affected the way we think about ourselves. It puts us at a higher risk of eating disorders like anorexia, and it's pushing people to get cosmetic surgery for the wrong reasons. If we don't take action to recognize the severe impact these standards have, we could be endangering future lives, because today's beauty standards are pressuring a majority of people to risk their lives just to be something that isn't humanely possible. It's hard not to be insecure about your appearance when the media constantly bombards us with way too many expectations of what we should look like. By age 6, girls especially start to worry about their size and appearance. That's right, by age 6. In fact, 40 to 60% of girls, 6 through 12, are already concerned about becoming fat. The main cause of these insecurities comes from social media, where you're likely to come across millions of photos of models and celebrities who look perfect. Maybe too perfect. It's safe to say that 99.9% of the models you see online have been photoshopped in some way, such as removing acne, stretch marks, or other flaws that are completely normal but considered unattractive to today's standards. The line between a natural photo and an altered one becomes blurred because most of the time we can't even tell the difference. With the lack of realistic bodies in the media, it can distort a person's view of what a healthy person should look like and make them believe that there is something wrong with their appearance, which negatively affects their self-esteem greatly. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of what beauty standards can do. The deadliest impact of these unrealistic standards is caused a psychiatric disorder known as anorexia nervosa. Anorexia is a mental illness that is characterized by having an abnormal body weight, a distorted body image of oneself, and an intense fear of gaining weight, causing them to avoid eating and drinking. This disorder is very fatal and can cause huge consequences for your health. For example, severe anorexia can cause an unstable heart rate. This leads to concerningly low blood pressures and increases the risk of heart failure. Not only that, but anorexia can also cause your bones to become more fragile, deteriorate your muscles, and permanently damage your kidneys and other important organs. Without treatment, up to 20% of anorexic cases result in death. Anorexia can also do a number on your mental health. By inducing feelings of shame and low self-esteem, it can eventually turn into depression and increase the risk of suicide. But what's more concerning about this disorder is that it's commonly found in teens. According to the National Eating Disorder Association, 50% of teen girls and 1/3 of teen boys use unhealthy weight control behaviors, such as self-starvation. The extent that people will go to become skinny is incredibly disturbing. Now, how could I talk about beauty standards without mentioning cosmetic surgery, or commonly known as plastic surgery? There are many reasons why someone may want to get cosmetic surgery in the first place, but one of the most problematic causes is feeling the need to be fixed, when in reality, there's really nothing wrong with them. Not only is this mindset unhealthy, but dangerous. For example, Rodrigo Alves, who was known as the human Ken doll, had his first plastic surgery procedure at 17 for a medical condition that made him unattractive. He was tormented and bullied for something he couldn't even control. This led him to suffer from body dysmorphia, a severe mental illness where you have an obsession with imagined flaws in your appearance. One procedure turned into 60 to fix flaws that weren't even there. In the end, his obsession nearly cost him $1 million and almost his life. Body dysmorphia occurs in about 5% of patients who want cosmetic surgery, but fewer than 10% of those body dysmorphic patients will actually be satisfied with the results, which could easily lead to a deadly obsession just like Rodrigo's. Now you may be wondering, what happened to Ashley, the girl I mentioned at the start of this speech? Well, luckily, she was one of the 60% of anorexics who managed to fully recover. But I can't help but feel sad for the other 40% who are still suffering. Today's beauty standards have made beauty deadly and unattainable to the point people are killing themselves to meet those expectations. I'm sick, I'm tired, and I'm frustrated with how little is being done to fix this issue. It shouldn't take Photoshop. It shouldn't take plastic surgery. And it definitely shouldn't take self-starvation to love yourself and your body. As said by American actress and model Zoe Kravitz, beauty is when you can appreciate yourself. When you love yourself, that's when you're most beautiful. And I can't help but agree with that. Nobody's perfect, because we are all human and we are bound to have imperfections. That's what makes us beautiful. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Diana Jarek McClellan with the speech entitled, "The Bias You Hold."
Good afternoon. Do you consider yourself biased? More specifically, do you consider yourself implicitly biased? This can be a difficult question to answer if you don't know what implicit bias is. The National Institutes of Health defines implicit bias as a form of bias that occurs automatically and unintentionally, that nevertheless affects judgments, decisions, and behaviors. In simpler terms, implicit bias is a form of bias that we hold without being aware of it. Many people think of this as a bad thing, but in reality, holding implicit biases is what makes us human. It only gets detrimental when we let these biases dictate our life. When discussing implicit bias, it's important to know how to recognize it, how it can affect our behavior, and how to combat it when it becomes harmful. One way to recognize our implicit biases is to acknowledge how they can be indirectly taught. Nature versus nurture is a large topic when discussing this. Are we all born with certain biases, or are they taught to us? Though children aren't directly taught, here's what we bias towards, and here's what we biased against, the experiences kids have can indirectly contribute to their bias. One instance of this is learning about similarities and differences. During this stage of learning, differences in gender, race, language, and age are bound to be brought up. This in itself isn't a bad thing. It's when kids begin to hyper-focus on these differences that they become biased individuals. As a parent or teacher, it's essential to recognize the impact of what you say and notice when you're subtly sneaking in your own biases when discussing differences with kids. Another way to recognize our implicit biases is to be aware of media bias. Media bias is defined as when journalists or news organizations allow their own opinions to affect the news that they report and the way that they report it. Media bias exists everywhere, but it's most prominent in the news. Many people like to claim that they themselves only consume unbiased information, but the truth is, all of the news we consume is inherently biased one way or another. This is because news reporters and journalists have their own implicit biases just like everyone else. Once you realize this, it becomes easier to recognize negative biases and whether or not they're affecting your behavior. Some people may claim that our implicit biases only make us worse people. The truth is, this bias can have both negative and positive effects on how we act. Our implicit bias negatively affects our behavior, most noticeably when we're in a position of power. For example, an employer. A person's photo, age, or name on their resume can influence one's decision to hire them without even realizing. Despite how positive the employer may be as a person, their hiring process can be extremely negative due to their unconscious bias. Something similar can even occur in the medical field. Research shows that implicit bias may contribute to healthcare disparities by shaping physician behavior and producing differences in medical treatment along the lines of race, ethnicity, gender, or other characteristics. Even if a doctor is presenting objective information to you, their own implicit biases can affect the way they present it to you, or even the tasks they perform. This becomes negative when you miss out on crucial medical treatment you should be getting. One of the positive effects implicit bias has on our behavior is being able to better adjust to new situations. Though it's good to go into things with an open mind, we all have a few biases we tend to hold on to that help us adjust. For example, many of us have a bias against dark, eerie-looking places. This bias can have a positive effect because it encourages us to avoid those areas. Whether safety plays a role or not, the main thing guiding this decision is our implicit bias. Another positive effect this bias has on our behavior is how we make friends. The implicit biases we have against certain traits or qualities we dislike in a person can make it easier to find those with traits or qualities we do like. It's common to believe that holding implicit biases can't be avoided since we aren't conscious of it in the moment. Though we may not notice our biased behavior while it's occurring, we can still reflect our interactions later and make an effort to be better. One method to combating our implicit biases is being more open-minded to new people and new ideas. This can be difficult due to the fact that many individuals tend to rely on their previous knowledge base or personal experiences. Research shows that when people feel that they're more knowledgeable or skilled in an area than other people, they're less likely to be open-minded. The next step to combating our implicit biases is UB training. UB stands for unconscious bias, which, as previously stated, means the same as implicit bias. This training consists of lessons for teachers, students, employers, and employees on how to avoid certain prejudices. When done correctly, these trainings can be very useful tools to challenge our implicit bias. This was made clear in the results of 2 surveys. Not only do employees report heightened awareness of bias, but they also show less bias and prejudice weeks after the training. The last way to combat our implicit biases is to be a good example to others. When one person's in a bad mood, it's easy for those unhappy emotions to rub off on those around them. Psychologists call this event emotional contagion, a process where one person's feelings are contagious. Bias works very similar to this. When one person is prejudiced against a certain group, those around them will likely exhibit this same behavior. Setting a good example of how to avoid harmful biases not only helps those around you, but also makes you a better person. So, if you've ever done something as simple as going shopping and asking the younger employee where to find something rather than the older one, you have exhibited implicit bias. It's important to recognize when this bias occurs, understand if it's positive or negative, and figure out how to properly combat it when it becomes damaging. Remember, there's no shame in holding implicit biases as long as it's at a controlled level. Make sure that your biases are being controlled and not controlling you. Thank you.
The next speaker is Maeve Wallin with a speech entitled, Should Artificial Intelligence Be Allowed to Control Cars?
Hi. Imagine, it's about 2 years from now and you've just turned 16. You're eager to drive, step on the gas and go. But what if none of that exists in 2 years? What if you were told that driverless cars are the new reality? In less than 5 years, driverless cars could become a reality, but should they be? AI should not be allowed to control road vehicles. One may argue that fully autonomous cars are the future, so that we could just keep developing them until they're fully safe. Although this may be true, they are not ready yet to handle such an important part in our everyday lives. Autonomous cars can present many dangers. AI has many ethical risks because it can be hacked and is unsecure. Studies also show that AI is not yet intelligent enough. This technology is only as good as it's programmed. Artificial intelligence is becoming more and more available and may become a reality in many areas of life very soon. However, it is ethically risky and should not be used in road vehicles. AI has many ethical risks. Ethics are defined as moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. There are ethical considerations when dealing with robotics and AI. There are 3 laws of robotics proposed by Isaac Asimov, American writer. The first law is that a robot or machine must comply with the orders given by a human, besides when the orders conflict with the second law. The first law is that a robot or machine cannot harm a human or allow a human to come to harm. The third law is that a robot or machine must protect its own existence so long as it does not conflict with the first or second laws. These ethics were science fiction at the time of Isaac Asimov. However, these have now become real considerations. These laws are guidelines for AI, but the technology does not always behave equitably. There are no federal laws guiding machine and robot production and design. Therefore, AI has no guidelines and is open to many ethical risks, and no regulation can lead to complications. Some may argue that there aren't many ethical risks to AI. However, there are many underlying ethical risks and issues. First of all, the security of AI brings up an extensive issue. Autonomous cars have the ability to connect to everything around them. A University of North Dakota study shows their ability to connect wirelessly to everything around them also makes autonomous systems vulnerable to hacking. Insecure software means that AI may not be the best fit for controlling our road vehicles. Data and privacy surveillance also goes along with this issue. Your private information is fundamentally programmed into the vehicle, but problems could arise. If your information is able to be viewed, it exposes your personal data and gives access to your home networks and other information that could be used against you. If others have viewing access to your personal information and data, you could be robbed or have your identity stolen. This ethical risk of AI shows that the unsecure software is not fit to be operating cars. Artificial intelligence is also prone to program bias. Program bias is a phenomenon that occurs when an algorithm produces results that are systematically prejudiced due to erroneous assumptions in the machine learning process. In simpler terms, this is the tendency of AI to reflect human biases. Program bias can be coded into the machine, or if incorrect information is used, this could result in program bias. There are many biases that a robot could pick up, such as racial bias, gender bias, and other discriminatory biases. These biases can affect their ultimate performance. A recent study done by Georgia Tech School of Computer Science shows that an autonomous car with an embedded racial bias may be more fatal to a colored pedestrian than it may be to a white pedestrian. Fatalities could occur due to program bias and the ethical risks of having AI operate cars. In addition to these ethical risks, AI is still not yet intelligent enough to be allowed to operate cars. AI is still not yet intelligent enough to be in full control of cars. The technology is not yet advanced enough, and this could present many dangers to society. Car companies such as Tesla already sell cars with autopilot. However, there have been many incidents proving the technology is not perfect. AI is not able to handle certain obstacles. Problems arise when obstacles are thrown onto the road at the last second. A human driver would be able to detect these obstacles right away, whereas the AI operating the vehicle is not able to recognize them right away and cannot make last-minute decisions. The average reaction time of a human is about a fourth of a second, while the reaction time of AI is supposed to be around half a second. This has been proven to be untrue. A recent study done on Tesla's latest version, which is full autopilot, demonstrates that the AI in the car is not able to detect a child on the road because of faulty AI performance and reaction time. Dan O'Dowd, founder of Green Hills Software, states over 100,000 Tesla drivers are already using the car's full self-driving mode, putting children at risk in communities across the country. Artificial intelligence is not ready to operate road vehicles. AI also has the issue of not being able to recognize traffic signs if there are stickers or drawings on them. So this could result in the system wrongly recognizing the message, the driver being misinformed, and causing accidents to take place. If road markings are modified, the AI automotive systems can be compromised and can change the direction of the vehicle unpredictably. As well as these issues, if another vehicle is not registered in the software system, the AI could not recognize these vehicles, causing accidents. In 2022, Tesla alone revealed that there were 516 crashes due to autopilot from July 2021 to November 2022. AI in cars has been proven to be unsafe and unreliable. There was also the possibility that the AI system will phantom brake. Phantom braking is when the car suddenly brakes for no apparent reason. If a car were to suddenly phantom brake in the middle of a highway, this could cause many fatalities. On November 24, 2022, in the San Francisco Bay Area, a Tesla Model S was traveling at about 55 miles per hour when it suddenly braked in the middle of the highway. This caused an 8-car accident. This accident led to 9 people being treated for minor injuries and 1 minor being hospitalized. Phantom braking is another major issue that illustrates the risk of having AI in cars. All of these examples show that AI is not fit to be operating such a large part of our everyday lives. Considering all of the risks, AI should not be allowed to control road vehicles. AI has many ethical risks and is not yet intelligent enough to be trusted with such an essential part of our everyday lives. Soon, everybody in this very room will come to the day where they can step on the gas and go. However, it is very possible that autonomous cars could be the new reality. These cars should not be the new reality. In the famous words of Stephen Hawking, it will either be the best thing that's happened to us or the worst thing. AI and cars could very well be the worst thing. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lola Grody with a speech entitled Fighting Fire with Fire.
Imagine you have been waiting in line for hours to check out at your favorite store. You're almost to the front when all of a sudden somebody cuts in front of you. Maybe you're thinking about yelling at them or cutting back in front of them. You want to get them back by retaliating. According to the Oxford Languages Dictionary, retaliation is the action of harming someone because they have harmed oneself. Retaliation causes harm, so why do we do it? Is it built into human nature? The truth is, retaliation is wired within us, into the very core of our being. Everybody has retaliated at least once in their life, but people shouldn't retaliate at all. Some believe that revenge is the only way they can get justice for a crime. But if they seek justice, they may just end up hurting themselves more when the consequences hit them. Retaliation led to many tragedies. You may wonder, why do we retaliate and if we should retaliate? Now, you may want to know, what exactly has retaliation done? Retaliation, or the action of harming someone because they have harmed oneself, is a familiar idea because this has happened many times throughout history and has resulted in everything from hurt middle school feelings to war. Retaliation is what started the Boston Massacre. The American colonists were taunting the British soldiers until one's rifle accidentally went off. It ended with 5 people dying and more wounded. But even that can be traced back to more acts of retaliation. The king was mad at the colonists, so the British imposed harsh taxes on tea and other items. That led to mad colonists, so the colonists tossed tea into the water at the Boston Tea Party. That made the redcoats mad, which led to the Boston Massacre. The encounter led to additional acts of retaliation in the colonies against harsh mandates and heavy taxes imposed by Parliament. A revolution was to follow. The Civil War can also be shown as an act of retaliation. Due to the fact that President Lincoln was elected mostly by Northerners, and the fact that Lincoln didn't support slavery, members of the U.S. Senate resigned as a retaliation. They left to join the Confederate side of the Civil War. And even South Carolina seceded because there was talk of abolishing slavery. This led to the Civil War, North against South. As a result, there are over 620,000 people dead. More Americans were killed in this war than all other wars combined. But Why do people keep retaliating when we know how dangerous it is? People don't just retaliate for no reason. They seek revenge because they enjoy putting people in their place. We all enjoy the satisfaction of punishing someone who wronged us. We are built to retaliate. Think back on the last time you may have retaliated. In the moments after, you probably felt a rush of satisfaction and were happy that they got what they deserved. The Association for Psychological Science says, the findings, published in a 2004 issue of Science, gave psychological confirmation to what the scorned have been saying for years. Revenge is sweet. And it's true. Revenge is sweet in that moment when we thrust our wrath upon someone. Swiss researchers wanted to know what happened when somebody sought revenge by doing an experiment. They scanned the brains of people who had been wronged in a game. When the scientists gave the wrong person a chance to get payback, they noticed something intriguing. There was a rush of activity in the caudate nucleus, the part of the brain that processes rewards. This shows that revenge is rewarding. However, you are only truly rewarded in that moment because it eventually comes back to you. Even though it feels good, should we retaliate? No. You shouldn't retaliate because it causes harm to the person you're retaliating against. Even if they had hurt you, they will get hurt as well when you decide to retaliate. There are multiple sides to every story, and every person has reasons for their actions. Even if they're awful, let justice take its course. Say your brother has just been murdered. You want to seek justice, but if you murder them back, the consequences of murder get taken out on you. Why cause your family additional pain in an effort to bring justice to another? Retaliation can also hurt you in other ways. Being on edge and hating one person comes with side effects. Psych Matters says, hatred also triggers the mind to try to predict what the actions of the person being hated may do as a way to protect you. But this leads to further anxiety, restlessness, obsessive thinking, and paranoia. Hatred can branch off in so many different directions, all of them causing harm to you. Being worried all the time can cause digestive disorders, short-term memory loss, and even heart attack. All of this and more can happen because you sought revenge. You may think that we should retaliate because it provides us with closure and allows us to put the past behind us. However, revenge doesn't stop. It doesn't offer closure. It just gives you a chance to continue a cycle. All of this shows that retaliation is terrible. People shouldn't retaliate. Now that we know that retaliation is harming someone because they harmed you, that we retaliate because of how our brains are wired, and that retaliation harms everyone involved, remember when that person cut in front of you in line? If you had retaliated, the manager would have just sent you both out of line for causing a scene. But if you didn't, you would have made it to the checkout without having to get mad. A future without retaliation is bright and peaceful. However, one with retaliation leads you to a place with a dark future. If we begin the cycle of revenge and retaliation, it is endless. Do you want to be the one to start? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Aidan Pierney with a speech entitled, The End of Innocence.
It's time to grow up. That's what kids are always being told. Everyone is always so focused on the future, they forget to live in the present. Childhood is supposed to be this great time in our lives. So what's the rush to end it? People have their whole lives ahead of them to make mistakes and be mature. But at what age does someone become an adult? When is your childhood over? Many might think that childhood ends when you become a legal adult at 18. However, it's scientifically proven that the human brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25. What does it mean to be an adult? Is it age, responsibilities, a feeling? And are there certain events that mark the end of our childhood? You don't wake up one day and your youth is magically over. There are milestones people need to experience and mistakes they have to make to get there. Growing up comes with a lot of changes. Everyone has their own idea that comes to mind when someone says adulthood, but it doesn't only mean one specific thing. What does it mean to be an adult? It isn't only about age, it's about actions too. As an adult, you're expected to act mature and get a job. You also pass the age where it's normal to live with your parents, so you have to pay bills and rely on yourself. In other words, becoming an adult means becoming a self-advocate. This involves taking responsibility for your own actions and understanding how they affect the rest of the world. Many people say that there isn't a difference between childhood and childlike. However, if this is true, then what if someone is 19 and insanely childish? Are they still seen as an adult? Legally, they're considered one, but are they truly ready for the responsibilities that come with adulthood? Everything you do, every moment in your life has an effect. Rites of passages are what mark the end of childhood. It's moments in our lives and how we react that define who we are. They can either make or break you. Webster's dictionary defines a rite of passage as a ritual, event, or experience that marks or constitutes a major change or milestone in a person's life. We all know the common milestones of getting licensed at 16 or having the right to vote at 18. Some might argue that one moment can't end your childhood, but that's not at all true. One moment can affect someone's whole life. Rites of passages have a huge effect on our lives, even the moments that can seem small. Take, for example, the one thing that happened yesterday that you can't forget. It doesn't matter that you had a great day. That one embarrassing moment has you lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling. It has you wide awake at midnight, rethinking every embarrassing thing you've ever done. Believe it or not, even this is a rite of passage. It's a moment in your life that made you grow and helped you realize that you should never make that mistake again. These new lives that people are creating, how much of a toll does it take? Growing up comes with a lot of life changes. Believe it or not, no matter how scary that sounds, it's a good thing. Nobody should spend their whole life being occupied by cardboard building blocks. Some people say that nothing changes when you become an adult, but the truth is that nothing stays the same. You have to deal with the new aspects of living on your own and establishing a career. Also having to restock your refrigerator instead of food automatically being there. You lose a lot when you outgrow childhood. They'll miss the comfort of knowing and being known, and they face great grief in losing their sense of belonging. This place you once knew so well, full of protection and innocence, is gone. And even though this stage in life is hard, it also calls for celebration. You're now one step closer to having a diploma framed on your wall, or being able to go home to a life that you've worked so hard to earn. It's difficult for everyone to let go of the past, but there's so much more to look forward to in the future.
There isn't one specific day when your childhood ends. It's something that happens over time. Being an adult means something different to everyone. Growing up comes with its effects and milestones, but that's exactly what allows people to grow. And even though childhood ends, that doesn't mean it gets erased. It'll always be a part of us. It's a phase of our lives that we'll never forget. So remember not to take it for granted. You only live once. So stop and enjoy those moments that seem to fly by. Stop caring what others think and dance like nobody's watching. Live life with no regrets. And one day, we can all recognize that maybe it's not time to grow up just yet. Thank you.
That is the end of the speeches. We'll now take a quick intermission for the judges to tally up all the scores.
Okay, so how we do this is we will tell you the runners-up from, which is 6 through 15, in absolutely no particular order. Okay? So, as we call your name, please come up and get your certificate for Mr. Doherty, and he will line you up. Okay. Estelle Westergren. Sophie Garcia. Eliza Duputra Sumalong. William Kudalitis. Aiden Parany. Lola Grody. Sydney Caruso. Megan Nato. Diana Jarek McClellan. Ethan Roy. Just counting. Just making sure. Okay. In 5th place, we have Sophie Mojoyner. In 4th place, we have Stella Finnegan. In 3rd place, Hannah Edgar. In 2nd place, Maeve Willett. And this year's winner is Ryan Rosberg. I'm going to get out of the way for pictures.
You guys can head down that way.